Hello, my friend. I'm glad you found a quiet moment to be here tonight. The day has already passed, and there is nothing more you need to do now. Just allow yourself to rest, to breathe, and to listen to magical stories. Tonight, I'll share with you a handful of short Bulgarian fairy tales. Simple old stories shaped by old wisdom, speaking of forests and mountains, kindness and honesty, and the small wonders hidden in everyday life. The Foolish Old Woman and Her Cunning Son. In a village there lived an old woman who had two sons. One son had died, while the other lived with his mother and worked as a laborer wherever he could find work. The old woman was greedy and very foolish. One day, when her son was not at home, a soldier knocked on their door. The old woman opened the door and asked, "What do you want?" "Let me stay the night," said the soldier. "I'm very tired and hungry." The old woman felt sorry to part with her food and replied, "I have nothing to give you. I myself live in poverty, and my house is very small. There's no place for you to sleep." The soldier turned around and was about to leave, but the old woman became curious about where he was coming from and asked him about it. The soldier answered, "From the other world." "And did you happen to see," the old woman asked, "my little son who died last year?" "Of course I saw him. We are the best of friends," replied the soldier. "And how is he doing there?" "Oh, it's hard. They assigned him to herd cranes. But the cranes keep running into thorny bushes, and he's torn all his clothes to shreds. So he walks around in rags." Then the old woman ran into the house, pulled out a piece of expensive warm fabric from her chest, and gave it to the soldier, saying, "Give this to my son so he can make himself a suit." "All right, Granny, so be it," said the soldier. He took the fabric and left the village. In the evening, her son returned, and the old woman told him, "A young man came from the other world, and I gave him a piece of expensive fabric for your brother." The son became angry and said, "Oh, how foolish you are, mother. I'm leaving your house today. I'll go out into the world, and if I find a woman more foolish than you, I'll come back and take care of you for the rest of your life. But if I don't find anyone more foolish, don't expect me to return." And he set off on his journey at once. The next day, he arrived in another village and stopped at a wealthy house where a sow with piglets was grazing in the yard. He entered the yard and began bowing to the soul. The mistress of the house saw this and sent a servant to find out why the young man was bowing to the pig. The servant ran out into the yard and asked, "Hey, fool, my mistress wants to know why you're bowing to the pig. Tell your mistress that your pig is my pig's sister, and my pig is getting married. She sent me to invite your pig to her wedding." The servant returned to the house and relayed his words to the mistress. The mistress burst out laughing. "Who ever heard of pigs having weddings? What a fool! I'll play a joke on him. Have them harness the cart, dress the pig in my beads, and the piglets in my hats. My pig doesn't walk to weddings. Let all the neighbors have a laugh at this simpleton." They dressed the pig and the piglets, put them in the cart, harnessed two of the best horses, and led them out of the yard. The young man took the reins, sat in the cart, and drove away. In the evening, the master of the house returned from hunting. His wife told him the whole story, laughing uncontrollably. The husband said to her, "Oh, wife, you're much more foolish than that young man. Which way did he go?" And mounting his horse, the man galloped after the cart. When the young man saw he was being pursued, he drove the horses and the cart off the road and hid them in the bushes. Then he returned to the road, placed his hat on a tree stump, and sat down beside it. Soon the rider caught up to him and began asking about the cart. "Oh, yes," the young man replied. "I saw the cart, but it passed by a long time ago. It'll be hard for you to catch up." "You're younger. Catch up to them for me," pleaded the rider. "I'll reward you." "I'd be happy to help, but I can't. I'm guarding my master's falcon." "Then I'll guard it for you." "You'll let it escape, and I'll be held responsible." The owner of the cart then offered the young man 1,000 coins as a deposit and 200 coins if he got up to the cart. He paid the money up front and gave him his horse. Then he sat down by the stump to wait. He sat there for a long time until the sun set. When he got up to return home, he lifted the hat to take the falcon, but it was empty. He realized it was the same young man who had tricked his wife out of the cart and had now deceived him as well. He returned to his wife and made peace with her. Meanwhile, the clever young man went back for the cart and calmly continued on his way to his home village. He brought the soul with piglets, 3 horses, and the cart into the yard. Entering the house, he tossed a heavy purse of money onto the table and said, "Well, mother, as promised, I'll take care of you for another 100 years. There are people in the world much more foolish than you." The tale of the boy, the puppy, the kitten, and the Little Frog. Once upon a time, there was a woman who had a schoolboy son. Every morning, when the boy left for school, his mother would give him some money and say, "Take this, my son, and buy yourself a white bun." One day, as the boy was walking along the road, he saw 3 mischievous boys beating a little puppy with sticks. "Hey, you!" the boy shouted. "Why are you beating that puppy?" "None of your business. Go on your way, or we'll beat you too." The puppy whimpered pitifully. The boy shouted at the troublemakers again. "Listen, give me the puppy. I'll give you money for it, and you can buy a bun with it." "All right," said one of the boys. "Give us the money." The boy handed over his money and took the puppy. That day, he went without a bun. When the boy returned home, his mother saw the puppy, frowned, but said nothing. The next day, the mother again gave her son some money and sent him off to school. As the boy crossed the bridge, he saw the same troublemakers tormenting a kitten. They had tied a stone around its neck and were about to throw it into the river. The kitten meowed as if it were a crying child. The boy felt sorry for the kitten and shouted at the troublemakers, "Stop! Don't throw it in the water. Sell it to me. I'll give you money for it." "Give us the money," yelled the oldest boy, and handed him the kitten. The boy untied the stone, put the kitten in his bag, went to school, and again went hungry until evening. When he returned home, his mother saw the kitten, frowned even more, but again said nothing to her son. On the 3rd day, the boy gave his money to the troublemakers, this time to buy a little frog. It had secretly jumped out of a deep pond, away from its mother, and they had caught it. In the evening, the boy came home and placed the frog on the mat where the puppy and kitten were lying. This time, his mother got really angry. "What is this? Why are you bringing all this junk into the house? Who is going to feed them? Don't you know we have nothing to eat ourselves?" "Don't be angry, mother," said the boy. "Every creature wants to live. Throw them out of the house. I don't want to keep them here." "All right, mother, but I'll leave with them." "Go wherever you want," the mother shouted in frustration. The mother slammed the gate behind her son, thinking he would stand outside for a while and then come back apologetically. But the boy really laughed. He walked along the road with the puppy, kitten, and the little frog following him. They walked and walked until they reached a big city. They sat down to rest. The boy sighed heavily. "What's wrong, brother?" asked the little frog. "Why are you sighing? My heart is heavy. We have no bread. What are we going to do?" "We'll earn some," said the little frog. "How?" "I'll teach you. I'll sing. My voice is loud, and the puppy and kitten will dance. We'll entertain the children, and they'll throw us some money. Then we'll buy bread. Let's try it." They got up and continued on their way. They entered the city and went straight to the schoolyard. The little frog sang, and the puppy and kitten began to dance. They danced so well that the school children couldn't take their eyes off them. They threw the boy so much money that his head was full. The boy was delighted. He bought himself a loaf of bread, a whole box of flies for the frog, and a piece of meat for the puppy, and a fish for the kitten. They ate their fill, left the city, and spent the night in a haystack. The next morning, they went to another city and did the same thing, sang and danced, earning their bread. They walked from city to city, from village to village. They passed through many villages and cities. Many days and years went by. The little frog's voice became even louder. The puppy's neck grew thicker. The kitten's tail grew longer, and the boy grew a mustache above his lip. Now he was no longer a boy, but a fine young man. One day, the little frog said, "You know what, brother? I'm tired of wandering the world and singing." "What do you want?" asked the young man. "I want to return to our deep pond, to my mother. I miss her. I miss my mother too," said the young man. "Let's go back home." The little frog replied, "When you take me to my mother, she'll be overjoyed and will want to reward you with money. But don't take the money, brother. Ask her for the silver box. She always keeps it under her tongue." So the travelers set off on their way back. They reached the deep pond. The little frog croaked, "Mother, I've returned. Come out and greet me." The old frog heard him and jumped so high with joy that she leaped over the mill. "Where have you been, my dear child?" asked the frog. The little frog told her everything. The old frog began to thank the young man. "How can I reward you?" she asked. "I don't need anything. Just give me the box, the one you keep under your tongue." "Well, well, you know what to ask for," said the frog. "All right, take it. When you're in need, open the lid. You'll see what happens." The young man left the little frog with the old frog and went home to his mother. The puppy and kitten ran after him. When they crossed the threshold, the mother clapped her hands. "My son, how you've grown. Look, you have a mustache now. It's time to get married." "You're right, Mother. I've been thinking about it myself, and I've even found a bride," said the son. "As we were walking back to our village, I saw a girl in a neighboring town. She was standing by a spring, filling a golden jug with water. I want to marry her. Go and propose to her for me." "How can I propose to her, my son? Do you know who she is?" "She's the king's daughter, my child." "So what if she's the king's daughter? Aren't we people too?" "We are people, but poor as can be." "Go and propose to her anyway, and we'll see how things turn out." The mother got up and went to the royal palace. The old king looked her over from head to toe and stamped his foot. "Why have you come?" he asked in a stern voice. The poor woman told him why she had come, and the king shouted, "I will give my daughter in marriage to whoever builds a palace larger and more beautiful than mine." "Tell that to your son. Now get out of here." The poor woman returned home and told her son what the old king demanded. The son listened to his mother, remembered the frog's little box, took it out of his pocket, and opened the lid. It was tiny, no bigger than a fingernail. Suddenly, a thin white column of smoke rose from the box. It stretched and spread, and then turned into a giant, an enormous, mountain-sized giant. "What do you command, master?" the giant asked the young man. "I command you to build a palace, bigger and more beautiful than the king's." "It shall be done," said the giant, and in an instant he built a palace that reached the heavens. When the old king saw this palace, he bit his tongue. He had no choice but to give his daughter in marriage to the young man. The newlyweds began to live in the palace. One day, the young man said to his wife, "I'm going to see what's happening in the world. You stay home and wait for me until I return." The young man set off down the road, with the puppy and kitten following him. They walked all day. By evening, they reached a town. The kitten meowed. "Brother, I'm hungry." "I'll feed you now," said the young man. He reached into his pocket to take out the box, but the box was gone. The young man panicked. "Where is my box?" he cried. "I must have left it at home on the shelf under the bowl. There's nothing to be done. We must go back. We'll take my magic box and set off again." The travelers turned back. But here's what happened to the box. The young man's wife began cleaning the room and found the box on the shelf under the bowl. Not knowing what it was, she threw it out the window. The box fell onto the street, and a voice came from it. "Oh!" At that moment, a rag picker was passing by. Hearing the groan, he bent down, picked up the box, and opened the lid. Out came the giant. "What do you command, master?" the giant said to the rag picker. "I command you to take this palace and move it, along with me, to the most desolate island in the sea, and bring that young woman with us, the one looking out the window now." "It shall be done," said the giant, and he moved the palace to the island. Late in the evening, the young man, the puppy, and the kitten reached the place where their palace used to stand. But the palace was gone. The young man sat on a stone and wept bitterly. "Why are you crying, brother?" asked the puppy. "I'm crying for my palace, for my wife. Oh, if only I had my box now." "Don't cry, brother. We'll bring it back to you," said the kitten. And together with the puppy, they ran to the sea. They reached the shore and peered out. In the distance, they saw a lonely island with a palace on it. The kitten jumped onto the puppy's back, and the puppy swam to the island. They sneaked into the palace. The kitten couldn't resist and climbed up to the attic to chase mice. An old rat approached him and asked, "Why are you chasing my mice?" "I want to take revenge on your master." "What did he do to you?" "He stole our brother's box." "Where is your master now?" "He is sleeping." "And the box?" "He stuffed it up his nose." "If you need that box, I'll bring it to you. But you must promise not to catch my mice." "I promise," said the kitten. The rat ran to the kitchen and dipped her tail in red pepper. Then she sneaked into the rag picker's bedroom. He was fast asleep, oblivious to everything. The rat crept quietly up the blanket to his head and tickled his nose with her tail. The red pepper got into the rag picker's nose, and it tickled. He strained and sneezed. The box flew out of his nose, and the rat grabbed it with her teeth and brought it to the kitten. "Here," she said, "take it to your brother so he won't cry." And the kitten said, "Thank you very much." The kitten waved his paws, jumped into the yard, climbed onto the puppy's back, and they swam across the sea, overjoyed to have found their brother's box. They reached the shore and saw the young man sitting on a stone, crying. "Don't cry, brother. We've brought your box," the kitten shouted, handing the box to the young man. He wiped his eyes and opened the lid. In an instant, the giant appeared. "What do you command, master?" he asked. "I command you to bring the palace, my wife, and the thief here." And in a flash, the palace returned to its place. The young man entered it. The thief was still sleeping soundly. The young man stamped his feet, woke the thief, gave him a slap, and shouted, "Don't you dare steal someone else's palace again, or I'll have the giant break all your bones. Get out of here." The rag picker grabbed his hat and ran for his life. And so they all lived happily ever after. The young man with his wife and mother in the palace, the kitten in the attic, the puppy in the yard, and the little frog every evening would crawl out of the deep pool and sing them songs, lulling them to sleep. Bulgarian fairy tale, Necessity. Once upon a time, there was a woodcutter who had 2 sons. Every time he went to the forest, he would take one of them with him as a helper. But one day, the woodcutter said to his sons, "Today, children, you will go to the forest alone to gather firewood, and I will stay home to rest because I am very tired." "But father," the young man replied, "if the cart breaks, who will help us fix it?" "If the cart breaks, my son," answered the old woodcutter, "call for Necessity. She will help you." The sons obeyed their father, hitched the oxen, and went to the forest. There they unharnessed the oxen, let them graze, and took up their axes. They swung them and began to chop down a tree. They quickly gathered firewood and loaded the cart full. They hitched the oxen again and headed home. And then, wouldn't you know it, right in the middle of the road, the cart broke. The young man stopped and began to shout, "Necessity, Necessity, fix our cart." They shouted and shouted, but no one answered them. It was already getting dark, and there was no sign of Necessity, not a sound, not a sight. Finally, the younger son said, "Brother, that cursed Necessity isn't coming. It's already dark. Let's take matters into our own hands and fix the cart as best as we can." When the sons returned home, their father asked, "Well, how was it in the forest?" "Ah, forget it, father," the sons replied. "Our cart broke in the middle of the road. We started calling for necessity. We called and called until we were nearly hoarse, but she never answered. We realized necessity wasn't coming. So we took the axe and fixed the cart ourselves as best as we could." "That, my son, was necessity," their father said. "You called for her, and she was right beside you all along. There was no one to fix your cart, so you took matters into your own hands. And that's what it means for necessity to compel you." Bulgarian fairy tale, The Golden Girl. A man became a widower and married for the second time. From his first wife, he had a daughter, whom his new wife grew to dislike intensely. One day, she said to her husband, "I don't want that girl living in my house anymore." "Where should I take her? Can't you see she's still just a child?" replied the father. The stepmother answered, "Take her wherever you want, even to the ends of the earth. Just get her out of my sight." Day after day, there were arguments, until finally the father agreed to take the girl away from home. "Just bake her a flatbread for the journey," he said to his wife. The stepmother baked a round millet flatbread. The father stuffed it into a sack, took the girl by the hand, and led her into the deep forest. When they reached the hill, the father took the flatbread out of the sack, rolled it down the slope, and shouted, "Run, daughter, catch the flatbread." The girl ran down the hill after the flatbread and caught it among the bushes at the bottom. Meanwhile, her father slipped behind the trees and disappeared into the thickest. "Papa, I caught the flatbread." The girl turned around. "Papa, where are you?" The poor girl climbed back up the hill, looked around, but saw no one. She began to cry and started searching for a path, but found nothing. She wandered the whole day. When the sun sank behind the forest and it began to grow dark, the girl got scared and cried out loud. Deep in the forest, in a small wooden house, lived an old healer woman. Hearing a human voice, she came out of the house and shouted into the darkness, "Who is crying there?" A boy or a girl? If you're a girl, come to me. If you're a boy, go away." "I'm a girl, Grandma," replied the orphan. "Then come here quickly." The girl approached and asked, "Why don't you want to take a boy, Grandma?" "Because I need a helper in the house, and boys don't know how to manage a household." The girl entered the house. The old woman fed her and put her to bed. In the morning, the girl woke up early and, while the old woman was still asleep, cleaned the entire house, swept the floor, and fetched water. The old woman woke up, saw what the girl had done, smiled, but said nothing. She got dressed and prepared to go mushroom picking. Before leaving, she instructed the quick girl, "In my cellar live snakes and lizards. Boil some bran and feed them. Don't be afraid to approach them. They don't bite." The girl boiled the bran, cooled it, fed the old woman's pets, and, having no other work, started stringing beads onto a thread, making necklaces and putting them on all the snakes and lizards. By noon, the old woman returned home, and the snakes and lizards crawled out to greet her, boasting, "Look how the girl dressed us up, and how sweetly she fed us." "And the old woman will dress the girl up for that," said the healer, smiling again. Near the old woman's house flowed a magical river. Every hour it changed its color. After lunch, the old woman brought the girl to the river bank, sat down on the grass, and said, "I'll take a nap, and you sing to me so I can fall asleep quickly." The girl sat by the old woman's head and began to sing. Her song was as quiet as a bee's hum. Before falling asleep, the old woman murmured in a sleepy voice, "Watch the river. First, blue water will flow, then red, then black. After the black, yellow water will flow. That's when you should wake me up." And she dozed off. The girl watched the river. It changed its color every hour. First, blue water flowed, then red, then black. Finally, yellow water flowed, and the girl woke the old woman. The old woman jumped up, grabbed the girl by the hair, dunked her into the river, and shouted, "Grab whatever you can." The girl grabbed something underwater, and when the old woman pulled her out, she saw that the girl was holding a small chest. "What's inside?" asked the girl. "When you get home, open it with this key, and you'll see," replied the old woman, handing the girl a key. Then she led her out of the forest, showed her the way home, and said goodbye. When the girl entered the house, everything around her shone, because the yellow water was golden, and the girl had turned golden after bathing in it. The stepmother saw her and bit her lip in envy. "What's that chest you have?" asked the father. The girl opened the chest and lifted the lid. Everyone gasped. It was filled to the brim with gold coins. "Tell us quickly where you've been." The stepmother couldn't resist. The golden girl told them everything that had happened to her. "Take my daughter to the same forest," the stepmother shouted to her husband. She had her own daughter. "First, bake a flatbread," replied the husband. The stepmother baked a large wheat flatbread. The father led his stepdaughter into the forest, climbed the hill with her, and rolled the flatbread down the slope. When the girl ran after it, he turned back home. The girl wandered the forest all day, and when it grew dark, she cried out loudly. "Who is crying there?" the same old woman asked from the darkness. "If you're a boy, go away. If you're a girl, come to me." "I'm a girl," replied the stepmother's daughter, and entered the house. The old woman fed her and put her to bed. In the morning, when the sun warmed up, the old woman got up and saw that the guest was still sleeping. She frowned, but said nothing. She woke the girl and instructed her. "I'll go mushroom picking, and you clean the house. Then boil some bran, take it to the cellar, and feed my snakes and my lizards. Don't be afraid, they don't bite." The girl got up, took a broom, and started sweeping, but didn't sprinkle water on the floor. Dust rose throughout the house. Then she boiled the bran, didn't cool it, and took it to the snakes and lizards, who burned their tongues. When the old woman returned from the forest at noon, they began to complain. "The girl burned us with hot bran. It hurts, Grandma." "And the old woman will repay the girl in kind," said the healer, and went into the house. After lunch, she brought the girl to the magical river and said, "I'll take a nap, and you watch the river. If blue water flows, don't disturb me. If red flows, don't wake me. If yellow flows, don't call me, but wake me when black water flows. Now sing me a song so I can fall asleep quickly." But the girl sang so poorly and so loudly that the old woman said, "Stop, your singing is keeping me awake." The girl fell silent. The old woman dozed off, and the river began to change its color. When black water flowed, the girl woke the old woman. The old woman jumped up, grabbed the stepmother's daughter by the hair, dunked her into the water, and shouted, "Grab whatever you can." The girl felt a chest under water and held it tightly. The old woman pulled the girl out, gave her a key to open the chest when she got home, and then led her out of the forest and showed her the way home. It was evening, and the mother was waiting for her at the edge of the village. Seeing that her daughter had turned black and ugly, the stepmother turned green with anger, but said to herself, "Maybe she brought a chest full of gold." They returned home, opened the chest, and what did they see? It was filled with snakes, lizards, and crabs. Everyone screamed and ran in different directions, while the golden girl ran outside. "Run quickly, take off her golden dress, and dress my daughter in it," the stepmother shouted to her husband. The father chased after his daughter. She ran from him, and he followed her. When the golden girl saw that her father was catching up, she spread her arms and flew up like a bird. She soared over houses, gardens, and mountain peaks, rising high into the sky. She turned into a golden moon and illuminated the earth. The father stood there with his mouth open. He had never seen such a miracle before. Since then, the golden girl appears in the night sky, lighting up the earth and searching for her homeland with her eyes.